So tides, the basic idea of tides. Okay, so the tides are the rise and fall of the sea caused by the combined effect of the gravitational forces exerted by the moon, the sun, and our planet spinning. So there's actually a whole bunch of forces that are involved. So the photograph, by the way, is the same place at high and low. It drops considerably there. Tide tables can be used at any given locale to find the predicted times or amplitude. That's the tidal range, how much it comes in and goes out. However, these are only predictions, guys. The actual tidal height and the effect of the tide, wind, atmospheric pressure, all that sort of thing can adjust them. So if it says it's going to come in 2 meters, it could well only come in 1.5 or come in 2.5, just depending on what the atmospheric pressure is. And we've all heard of tidal surge and things like hurricanes, where you've got extreme low pressures and the tide gets extra high. So these are just predictions. So always give yourself a bit of leeway on tides. So how do they work? We've always got the 2 major lunar bodies near us. And when I say near, relative, okay? Enough to create a gravitational effect on us. So the first one is the lunar pull. It's obviously the moon. And then we've got the pull of the sun, which is the solar pull. Now the two of them both have an effect on the planet. And the water on the planet obviously moves. So it's affected by the fact that, one, the Earth is spinning, and then you've got gravity pulling the water to one side, but the Earth then spins underneath that. So that's why your tide sort of just sits and then fills and sits and fills and things like that. When the moon and the sun are in line, you've got both gravitational forces together. That'll give you a spring. They're called spring tides. Okay, so it doesn't matter if the moon is that side or that side, you've still got the effect of both of them being pulled together. And then when they're in opposite directions, you've got neap tides. So that the effect of the sun is cancelling some of the effect of the moon. So what we've got is, this is a beautifully drawn 90-degree picture. That's your ultimate. That means that if the moon is here, or here, or here, there, but not directly in line, it's not going to be quite as big a spring, but it still springs. And inversely, if the moon is coming a little bit here or a little bit there, it's still going to be neaps, but not necessarily as huge a neaps as a full directly opposite pull. Okay, there's a new moon or a full moon about every 2 weeks. And that's about how often we see a neap in a spring tide. Daily tides are therefore caused by the sun and the moon as the Earth goes round on its own axis. So we're moving and the water moves a little bit less because of the lunar and the solar gravitational pulls. So different tides are types, okay? The tide isn't the same as it is where you are, where we are. Like for instance, the guys in States, they've got mixed tides. So if we look at the 3 different types, the red ones, that's called semi-diurnal tides. That's 2 equally high lows and highs each day, which is a good majority of the world, specifically around the Atlantic. Then you've got locations which is a diurnal tide, not a semi-diurnal. That's the yellow sections. And they only have 1 high and low each day, often around very, very island populated areas, Caribbean, or around here around Yucatan Peninsula, up here where there's a very, very big ice influence, the same, a big ice influence up here. Down here, you've got a big influence coming from the Southern Ocean. So those only have 1 high and low a day. And then you've got mixed tides, which is the blue section. And these guys have 2 uneven tides every day. Okay, and it's completely irregular. So you could have a very high, then a low, and you could have a high and a low quite close to each other, and then a high and a low quite far apart from each other time-wise. So they're quite mixed. Okay, and this is basically to do with currents, movement of water around the planet, where it can actually flow easily, where it's got very, very strong natural currents. So for instance, in the North Atlantic, you've got that Gulf Stream coming across here. That keeps a very constant flow, constant temperature, all that sort of thing. Same thing in the South Atlantic. You've got a very nice constant current coming here until it gets to about here. Then the current goes all over the place. So in areas where you've got constant currents, like coming down the African coast there, very constant currents going up the east coast, the east coast of Australia, same thing, you've got very constant currents. Here you've got very disturbed currents. Here you've got a real mess because of all the islands. Same thing, a bit of a mess because of all the islands.